Good morning, everybody. Today is Saturday, July 13th, 2025. Now, here's the thing. This is a very important story, and I would not ordinarily do a live stream back to back. I did one yesterday. I'm doing one today, uh, and it's because of the importance of this story. And I feel that the more people that can know what's been going on, and I'm going to have to be careful with the information I share with you today, meaning that I may not be able to tell you the name, however, you'll be able to read it on the screen of the person. There was a tape, it was released. This happened 5 years ago. And in addition to the fact that there was a tape that was released 5 years ago, there was a lot of pushback, clearly, because no one wanted the information to come out. So, therefore, the person who made it available was immediately discredited, or there was a very big attempt to discredit this person on mainstream media. Now, you're going to hear a couple of familiar names. You're going to hear the name Harvey Weinstein. You're going to hear the name Bill Gates. You're going to hear the name Joe Ricari. You're going to hear the name Ronan Farrow. The photo that we're looking at presently is an exhibit photo that was presented to the jury during the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. And as we can see, there are clearly some videos that the government had at the time they prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, perhaps I will return and speak about Ghislaine Maxwell and what the current administration has done. However, I'll get to that later because it's really not really of that importance. I think what we have to do is realize that there is an ongoing, I'm going to spell it, sorry, for those of you who are unfamiliar, on this platform, we have to spell certain words and we have to use substitute words. And in some cases, we can't even name people because we are highly, I'm going to spell it CENSORED. That said, I want to begin by sharing information about Joe Ricari. And Joe Ricari is one of the initial detectives that worked on the JE case. He was oddly unalived, fast acting cancer. He's no longer alive. However, he's a former Palm Beach detective. And, he was a really great guy. He had a knack for making other people smile. He cared deeply for his family and friends, and he was found unalived after a brief illness on May 25th, 2018. He was 50 years old. Now, he worked with former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder, who said that Joe Ricari was among the best people he ever knew. And it's true. Everyone who met Joe Ricari said that he was great. Now, he was born in Queens, New York, before he moved to Florida with his family when he was 13. And he worked for the Palm Beach Police Department for more than 20 years, beginning in 1991. And he was really one of the most decorated police officers in the history of the department. All right. Now, among his major investigations was the high-profile case of JE in the solicitation of not of age people, during that time. And so what he did was he contacted another police officer who had retired and I'm just going to use his first name, by the name of John John is a former police officer who kept a website where other police officers would go to him to complain about cover-ups and about, let's say, dirty deeds on behalf of police officers. So this was a place that he kept this website. It was up and running, and he made no bones about it. Other police officers would go to him and say, hey, can you keep this on your hard drive? Can you keep this here? And he would. And among those people was Joe Ricari. So he was running this website, and he had been critical of the sheriff of Palm Beach County, specifically Rick Bradshaw. And he fled the United States when his house was raided by law enforcement authorities on March 14, 2016. He stated that after the raid of his home, the FBI was following him and his family, so he decided that he needed to escape from the country and flee. And the way that he did it is by wearing disguises, sneaking into Canada so that he did not have to go through American customs, who basically he suspected of having him on a no-fly list. And then he took a flight from Toronto to Istanbul. He boarded another flight to his final destination, which became Moscow, Russia. So one of the people who, well, I mean, I've spoken to him, and I saw the video, and I tried to go public, and it was all shut down. But among the people that did speak with him is an author that is well known. And let's see, do I have his info here? I'm going to have to bring it up. Let me try to find this. Here's the thing. I pay $88 to StreamYard, which is a lot of money, and they still have their logo there. If I want to upgrade, so they don't have their logo there, and so they allow me more than 10 images, I have to pay just shy of $200, which is obscene. I can't afford $200. So what I have to do, sadly, is try to, let's see if I can add one more photograph here, because I would like to show you. And if I can't, I'll just mention the name and it'll be familiar to you guys. Just see, give me a second to see if I can upload this one image so that you'll know that this is this is a mainstream media journalist, author, who interviewed Mark. John Mark. I can't really say his full name. And let me just see if I can pull this up. Okay. So Craig Unger is a mainstream guy. He's written several books. Most of them are on Donald Trump. And he interviewed John Mark. And he saw the video. I'm going to show you a still of the video that he was shown. Now, according to the way the story works, Ricari gave John Mark about, like hundreds of images. And the reason he gave them to him was because he said that he knew that these were never going to see the light of day. Now, Craig Unger saw the tape. He didn't recognize the person. Neither did Mark when he first got it, but eventually he was able to figure it out. Craig also figured out who it was. I'm going to tell you who it was. However, I'm going to have to not say his name, but I will be showing information, and I'll be telling you what happened when I tried to go public with this. Okay, so here is a still from one of these non-existent videos. Non-existent video. Now, it was taken during the 1990s. This person is an executive at, and I'm going to be reading his bio without mentioning his name, but he was Ronan Farrow's boss. He was Ronan Farrow's boss at the time that Ronan was trying to write an expose on Harvey Weinstein. He did not want to run an expose on Harvey Weinstein, and Ronan Farrow had to leave his employment and go to the New Yorker and give his article, Harvey Weinstein, Army of Spies, to the New Yorker, who then published it. However, this person would not publish it at all. I'm going to just go here. That's right. Cloudicles. Holy smokes, Kirby. Well, you should have seen the pushback I received when I went public with this 5 years ago. And the pushback that John Mark receives. This is a Newsweek article. There have been many of these articles. Newsweek is an arm of the three-letter agency that begins with the letter C. And they have been writing about how he is a disinformation agent. They have done everything. So remember, I've always told you that when they can't unalive you, they will try to discredit you. However, I just explained how Craig Unger interviewed him, and this is him. He had to flee. He can't come back into the United States. His life is on the line. And initially, when I shared this, the pushback I received was, "Oh, that's not anybody. That's JE." And eventually, I'm going to just share more information with you. But first, let me just go into who this person is. So let me just share this with you. So this is part of one of the many articles that came out when Ronan Farrow was getting pushback on his expose, Harvey Weinstein, like the biggest creep on the planet. So I'm going to just read this to you. So who exactly was responsible for spiking the Farrow story on Harvey Weinstein? Logically, this sort of decision would likely have gone to the top of the NBC News food chain, but SNL isn't under Andy Lack's control, so it would be blank blank. CEO of NBC, or somewhat at Comcast above him, who requested the company back off. Do those words sound familiar? Back off? Okay, who else was told to back off? That reminds me of Alexander Acosta, who later became the Secretary of of Labor under Donald Trump's administration. Okay. If you think this is mind-blowing, again, you should see what I have on my private platforms, on my Patreon, on my Substack. This is mild in comparison, but I needed to bring something to you to show you that what's going on is like a real thing, that there has been pushback from day one, anyone who tries to expose any of this, okay? So I'm going to keep reading this. Ronan Farrow appeared on MSNBC Rachel Maddow's show last night and seemed to be suggesting that NBC passed on his piece based on pressure from Weinstein, telling host Rachel Maddow that she would have to ask NBC and NBC executive about the details on why they passed on the story. Okay, so I'm going to read to you a little bit about who this person is, and then I will continue on with what's going on here. And I'm just pulling up some info because I've still got Bill Gates to get to. His name I can share with you because at least we've seen photographs of Bill Gates with J.E., and I can say that name because it's already been said. All these other names that I'm sharing with you have not been said, and I don't want this to be, not here. Okay, so this person was born August 1958. He is the senior executive president, vice president of Comcast, and the chairman of NBC Universal. He began his career as an associate product manager in the breakfast food division at General Foods. In January 1986, he joined the Walt Disney Company and founded the Disney Store concept for the consumer product division. From 1992 to 1996, he served as president and COO of Euro Disney. Okay, in 1996, he was named executive vice president of ABC. That's ABC, one of the original television stations that we now know through the church committee hearings that I keep telling you guys about, was exposed as having an ongoing relationship with the three-letter agency that I show with receipts on my Substack, JE, belonged to, and I show you exactly how when I name names. Okay, I'm going to continue. The following year, I mentioned a name that I can't mention, was named as president of ABC Broadcasting. In 1998, he left Disney and became the president of Comcast Cable. And so you get the gist of this, and I'm going to go now share some information about Bill Gates. So Bill Gates and this person who was on the tape that I just shared with you, I'm going to give you a second to kind of take a look at that image. So I have a photograph that I took that straight from mainstream 5 years ago when I tried to go public the first time with this story. And I got so much pushback from the intel apparatus, from paid trolls. It was insane. Okay. So this person calls his company strategy Beacon Investing, which has its roots in a $1 billion bet that Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates. I want to stop here, pause for a second, and say that Paul Allen, who co-founded Microsoft with Bill Gates, is my abuser's partner in another venture. Now, we know that Paul Allen is no longer alive, but he too was one of my abuser, because I am a survivor, okay? And I am also an author, over 20 books, over 350 essays on my Substack. I have this podcast now for multiple years, and I have been deep diving into this mess for over 2 decades to see why would somebody want me unalived. In any event, we see that Bill Gates somehow made a deal with Steve Burke. Oh, gee, blank, blank. In any event, Microsoft didn't put $1 billion in Comcast to take it over. No, they thought it would be a good investment and sent it as a message that it was important. So, like, Microsoft basically made this investment in 1997. The investment came at a time when the cable company, like Comcast, needed money to make substantial upgrades to their networks to handle broadband data transmission, which helped to turbocharge the internet. Now, apparently, Bill Gates, he didn't want to take over the company. That's interesting. He always wants to take over a company. But in this particular case, now we know that these two gentlemen who are on the screen are connected to the person who we cannot name. Okay? We cannot name this person. However, when I attempted to share this information, and I just want to pull up something else. This is what I was told. I was told, no, that is not that person. That is the profile of J.E. A person, one of the people who was pushing back really hard, sent me this thing they mocked up. I didn't do this. No, I didn't do this. Somebody sent it to me. They're like, no, look at the profiles. They were gaslighting me and the public at the time that I was trying to come public with this 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Now, I want to ask you guys here on the stream, put a 1 in the chat if you think this person is the person in the middle of the photograph. Put a 2 in the chat if you think it is actually J.E. I'm going to wait for you guys because you guys, we're a team here. So 1, is it the person in the middle? 2, is it the person to the far right who we know is J.E.? I'm waiting for you guys because we are a team, and as a team, we are going into this 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. There you go. Not that person. Not that person. I agree. 1, 1, 1. 1, 1, 1. Okay. Yep. Here we go. 1, 1. Okay. I agree. I agree. It is the person in the middle. Can you believe that they tried to gaslight me? Hey, that doesn't work with me. It doesn't work with you guys either. Okay? It doesn't work with you guys either. But you should have seen the pushback. This is just keep going. You guys are insanely great. I love you. I love you. There. You guys are amazing. Okay. We are such a good team. You guys, I can't thank you enough for joining me on the most hellish ride of my life. Before he was arrested in July of 2019, I was going at this alone. As soon as I came on board, Virginia and I connected. I connected with other women, both from the Harvey Weinstein situation and from this situation. And then you guys, and I don't feel alone anymore because we're kind of doing this together. But I'm happy to see that you understand that, like here, this Brian Liam, that facial profile, definitely not J.E. So obvious. So obvious. And Tamara Vaughn, thanks for being here. Thank you, Kirby. Well, thank you, Tamara. Again, I could not have done everything I do without your help. Those of you who, check out the chin. Look, that's a clear one. That's a clear one. And so I am going to see if you guys have anything you would like me to add to this. So let me just circle back to Glenn for a moment. Brad Conley, this is great info. Thank you. Disney acquired ABC circa. Yeah, that's around the time exactly of when this happened. Now, people are saying, well, now that there are no JE files, like they don't exist, what's going to happen to Ghislaine? Well, Ghislaine was prosecuted for transporting with the intent of, not for what JE is said to have been doing. It was a different kind of case entirely. So it was with the intent of harming a child or a minor in that manner. And the minors who had been selected, grown women at the time of the trial, 4 of them were there. They were only there, and by the way, out of the 4, Carolyn is unalived. Virginia could not be there, not because she was, like Alan Dershowitz has said, not a credible witness. To the contrary, because she had signed so many non-disclosure agreements with JE in 2009, with Ghislaine in 2015, that she could not, by law, and perhaps according to the advice she received from David Boies. And by the way, I do a deep dive on David Boies, who he's related to, his background, super shady, connected to a very famous call girl scandal. I mean, the dirt that I have been able to uncover during the past 6 years working on this case day in and day out, again, with your help, thank you, thank you, thank you, has been insane. No one else is doing this. No one else is doing this. So I am thinking that people are saying, well, now Ghislaine is going to get out of jail. No, I've always said that Ghislaine will get a reduced sentence. She is currently trying to appeal what's going on with her. But if you read the case documents carefully and you read those transcripts and what happened, even though it was a sham trial and there were people who had been transported, even one to Donald Trump, by the way, he and JE shared this one woman for a whole year before he married another woman. In any event, I think that she will not, let's say, get a pardon from Donald Trump, because clearly he tried to do that when he was stepping down during the first time. And he was told, well, if you do it on a federal level, it's not going to help her because she's still going to be facing state charges. So he's not going to do it now because of the back. I mean, like the backlash of his backpedaling. Everything is back, right? Back for a cover up. The backpedaling that he has done, because he basically ran on the premise that once he got into office, he was going to reveal to the little folks, right? Us mere peons, the voters of the United States, he's going to release the JE files. That is what he ran on. And then suddenly the other day, he's like, well, are you still talking about this person, this loser? And he goes on this rant. In any event, there are a lot of tentacles to this. You can see my deep dive on Eva Anderson. And by the way, I want you guys to know that already there were I always have, and I'm going to call them intelligence assets. I mean, clearly, why would intelligence assets not be looking at what I post and what I write? So somebody actually had the nerve to say, oh, that was not Eva Anderson. There's another Eva Anderson. Sure. Okay. In any event, yeah, the pushback is insane, is intense. Again, I tried to bring this to you 5 years ago. It didn't happen. And I'm bringing it to you today. So let me see. Keen to explore all your Virginia investigations. Your recent memorial video deeply moved me, as I live nearby to where the tragedy of her final days transpired. Thank you for that. It's taking a long time for me to get over her loss. And, without her, we wouldn't have any of this. Ghislaine would still be walking free. Jean-Luc Brunel would still be walking free. Virginia went to Paris to testify against Brunel, which is why he was incarcerated, although he met the same fate as JE. None of the, I would say, nothing would have come to the surface without Virginia. We owe her everything that we know about the so-called deep state. Okay. Let me see if you guys have any questions here. Ghost Pepper, thanks for joining the live. So happy to make a live. Thank you for your courage and tenacity. Tenacious I am. Uh, tenacious I am, especially, I'm basically fighting for, look, we're not going to get the truth from mainstream. I think if we can keep ourselves informed properly with receipts, I'm showing you receipts. All right. And we're not going to get this kind of thing from even indie, because just like the intel apparatus has had its hold on mainstream, so too have they infiltrated indie. Now, I'm a survivor. I'm in a very unique position, and it's the motivation I have to discover, well, what was happening with me. And then I thought I was the only one, and only to realize, well, wait a minute, there are many other people. So, like my memoir, I wrote that during the late 1970s, Billionaire's Woman memoir, and then I wrote Jeffrey Epstein, Predator Spy, and then I wrote Ghislaine Maxwell, an unauthorized biography. I've written tons of books, and I have, again, like I said, over 350 essays on my StreamYard. I'm sorry, on my Substack. And so let me just go here. Comment Mama, does Maxwell Sisters surveillance software get used by all the three-letter agencies? They had, that would be Isabel and Christine. They had um, the first search engine, Magellan, which they sold to Excite. Initially, yes, they had contracts with the FBI and other intel agencies with the United States government. However, what I show again on my Substack is that they used the first search engine to obscure results for Jim Will Fix It. I'm going to spell his last names. Remember, I have to spell some names. Sorry. Savile. So they have been obscuring information. And I think I mentioned on yesterday's live that when Google was created, um, it was created with a grant from DARPA. All right. So from day one, none of these search engines were created for, let's say, for the use of the public, for us to get, quote, free information. It was created for the use of the public so that we can get the information that they wanted to present to us. It takes a lot of work. You have to speak to primary sources. That is how I got this story. Okay. You have to know what fits into what. And because I was an S slave for 8 years, and knew a lot of things and overheard a lot of conversations, it puts me in a very unique position where I can bring you information that, let's say, somebody who's never been involved in this just doesn't have the ability to do this. Um, so in any event, I am going to see if there's anything here. Um, there might be one last question here. Well, I'm going to share this with you. Tamara Vaughn. Hey, Tamara, how are you today on this Saturday? Read through the entire flight log you posted on your Substack and could not believe how many times Eva's name was listed. Well, she was the information that I have been able to obtain. She was Ghislaine before Ghislaine, and that's not even the half of it. There's so much more that I'll be sharing about Eva, who actually used another name later for some other stuff. Um, and it's all like nefarious stuff, I mean, it's just really very disturbing because, again, it's almost like what the world that we live in is really not the world as it is. I want to address this. William, hi. Why are the Trump administration a bunch of liars for the state that we can't even name. So I want to make it clear that I show with receipts that it's not just that state. He was an asset for the United States. Yeah, that state. But if you recall, Robert Maxwell was an asset for Russia. He was an asset for the UK. And frankly, I have receipts for that. And he was an asset, so he wasn't just that. I think that's a red herring, to be honest. Anytime I hear somebody really try to just say, there are a couple of things that really set me off. Among them are Mossad, or the island. And, or it's either one administration or the other, when basically I think by now we all know it's both sides. And, hey, I just showed you that there's actually a proof of somebody being, uh, you know, let's just say in a photograph that you would not want to be in, right? So we're going to end with this because this is the most shocking image that you will see, and perhaps the only time that you're going to see this. Please please subscribe to my YouTube channel here. If you can join me on either my Patreon or my Substack, that would be great. But if you just share, and subscribe, commenting helps the algorithm. Thank you for joining me on the most unforgettable journey and pushing back against all cover-ups. They all need to be shared. I mean, there should be no cover-ups, period. Okay, guys, have a good Saturday, a good weekend. Until next time. Thank you.